Well, welcome back to another episode of the Content Bebop. Today I'm here with Robbie A. Bear, right?
Yeah.
I had so much trouble saying your last name for some reason. But Robbie is a videographer here in Atlanta who's been doing it for quite a while. He's willing to share with us today the not so happy side of the film industry or working in this industry, because everybody kind of glamorizes it and for whatever reason, and those of us in it know that it ain't always so pretty. So how you doing today? You doing all right?
I'm doing good. Definitely doing very well. Just got off a very excellent film called Die With You. Shout out to Miles. Yeah, shout out to you, bud. And then I took a good mental health day afterwards. Just to definitely reflect on this year in film. And I definitely feel feeling a lot. I feel a little bit more at peace.
I feel you.
Yeah, and also and working with SVS Productions also really helped me. It really reinvigorated my love for film as well. So it was definitely well needed.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
All right.
But I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Hey, brother. Thank you for being here. So let's get to it. So one word you would use to describe your journey as a videographer?
It's definitely adventurous. Because I don't know what to expect, because it's very unpredictable. I said predictable. Very unpredictable. Very unpredictable. Because you never know. There's always a new trend. There's always new stories to tell. I look at it from like a creator's perspective, and the industry itself it can get really very difficult, but I think I don't want to say reward, but there's definitely a lot more to gain from it than I think to lose from it. It's just you just got to make sure that you don't let the industry kind of control you and try to change you, because that almost happened to me earlier this year.
Okay.
Before the spring. But it was because there was a few projects, a few production companies that really kind of helped me really find my love for film again, and just create from a creator's perspective and everything. So it was definitely very engaged. It's been an educational season. So
you said it's adventurous.
Yes.
Speaking of adventurous and uncertainty, so how do you handle this industry not knowing when your next paycheck is going to come in?
Well, there's always a lot to learn.
Right.
Everyone is always in a learning. You always have to keep a student mindset in terms of this industry, because you don't really know what happened. Well, you really don't know like when the next big thing is, when the next the next camera. I mean, we look at the FX30, which I've never even heard of, and I want to come here and try really test it out and everything and see, because I'm a big Sony guy.
Yeah.
But also, it's more about you don't want to get too complacent, so you want to make sure that that at least that you're ahead of the curve. But you want to be prepared, because once you're done with one job, you don't want to get too complacent to the point where you don't really know how you're gonna do on the next one, because you always want to make sure that your next job is better than the next. So the way I handle it is I try to spend my time just learning new ways in order to find clients. I recently joined the Atlanta Commerce Club to help me find a more effective way to meet other clients. They have a lot of networking events, and that's another thing. You got to keep networking.
Yes, you do.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people who will meet like maybe hundreds of people a week. I meet people every day, and it's a lot of people to keep up with.
Yes, it is.
And especially like if you get their social media, because obviously our industry is visual. So people want to, people always say, hey, I want to see some of your work. So obviously I get out my my Instagram, my Facebook, so like everyone can see everything that I do. And sometimes it's easy to get lost, with it's easy to get lost, to lose track of people like potential clients.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so that's why I always got to write stuff down and put a spreadsheet together to try to make sure that I follow up with them and be like, hey, so I know it took me a while, and I always tell them in advance, look, I have a lot of You know, I meet a lot of different people. I have a lot of clients. So just bear with me. It takes me a while to like really, you know, get to them, but eventually I will.
Have you thought about working a 9 to 5?
I did. I almost did earlier this year and late last year, but I just feel like for starters, you know, in the state of Georgia, the minimum wage is not good. Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's not that great.
You know, like that's why I know a lot of people who are in our industry who are either trying to do acting and what have you. They work like 3 or 4 different jobs, you know, just to really help pay rent. And I just don't want to get locked into that because I would basically be living to work versus working to live. You know,
that's one way of looking at it.
You know, so I thought about it. I am taking some online courses for real estate appraisal.
Oh,
you know, just
how does that tie into video?
Well, I mean, it's just some passive income. Sometimes a lot of people don't understand about this industry is that yes, it's glamorous on the outside and everything, you know, but people don't understand the sacrifice they had to make in order to get there.
I feel you. So how do you go about the long hours on set? How do you deal with that?
Man, I used to they are very grueling. It's going to happen. You're going to have short days, you're going to have long days, but for me, what I do is I always stay hydrated. I'm always drinking some water. I always go to Crafty whenever I try to get someone to if I need to step away and like leave my station, like sometimes I get another PA to really help me out. It's also about the key is also communication with your team, your production team, you know. And obviously it really depends. Every set is very different. Yeah, it is. You know, like some sets are like really fun and they're very laid back and you know, people are a team and people joke around and that's what's it's funny because the first AD is usually the person that you strongly do not like or the person that you really, really love. But some of them are just have that kind of balance to it though.
Yeah, I feel. So, how do you feel?
For me?
I like the AD.
No, I love the AD. I mean,
let's get it going. Quit all that playing. Let's get going. Let's get the shoot over with.
Right. Like I have a second AD who was she was very, very tough on me in the beginning, like when I met her. But you know, after getting to know her and really just like pull me aside after immediately after lunch, you know, she's like, hey, you know, let's definitely work on a relationship. I want to make sure that I communicate things directly to you. But I'm glad that she was tough on me because she prepared me for other, you know, ADs.
Yeah.
Right. You know,
they're not all going to be your friend. Yeah.
And also for grueling hours, there are certain times where you may have to sit down, but I would recommend standing because if you sit down, like personally for me, if I sit down, I'm going to fall asleep.
Yeah, I feel.
I'm going to fall asleep. So, but yeah, so I would just say, just stay energetic, just stay active, and just be vigilant of things that are going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk about late payments, man. Like, I know it's something that people like. I don't think people understand. This is the most dangerous part. This is the least exciting part of working freelance. Not knowing besides not knowing your next check coming in, it's like just dealing with people not paying you. And you know, when you got 9 to 5, you get your check every week or every 2 weeks. You know, it's in your account. There's no big deal. You're a W-2. But in our industry, you're chasing people down. You're fighting people to get your paycheck. To get paid. Have you ever had to deal with that?
Oh yeah, that was definitely a big part. That was very educational for me. Like I keep going back to like, you know, this year being a year of like really education, just some self-reflection. And you know, it's one thing to deal with like net 14 or net 20 or, you know, whatever, but when you can't really you can't hold somebody up for, you know, 30 days to a month because people got their own stuff that they got to deal with. Now before this year, which is very odd. Before this year, I never had that issue of people like paying me on time. Usually they'll get to me like within a week or 2 weeks, even less than 2 weeks, you know. But now like people are, you know, waiting like a month or two. Now part of it is maybe because I didn't really charge people as much. I recently just changed my prices.
I'm glad you did that.
Yeah. So I had to, and that's when I realized, okay, look, I am not charging them enough because, you know, for them, they are really taking me for granted by making me wait this long for something that's not even that much, and they're probably thinking, he's not going to complain about this much. So I'm like, okay, bet. So now I'm gonna have to increase him, and I'm gonna make, and I know, and I didn't have to like, I didn't have to like make people sign contracts or anything. Even like this year, and people eventually they did pay me.
Well, I'm glad they did.
But the fact that they waited so long was what really upset me.
Yeah.
So
what would you do if they didn't pay you?
Well, I would probably sue them. I actually have people. I have people in the I have family members who actually work in law too. So, and I do have some.
Have you ever had to do that?
No, I haven't. But
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah, I'm glad. I listen. I know there's like a blacklist in Hollywood and everything.
That's what they say. Yeah.
And I don't like to like cause issues or anything. I just feel like people need to be fairly compensated for their work. I mean, people will try to, especially for us, for videographers, they always say, hey, so I can do it for this much. I'm like, look, I got some bills to pay too, and I got to eat. Like we all got to elevate.
Right.
It's not just, about you. I mean, someone recently, not recently, it happened like maybe a few months back. Nothing against her. I haven't spoken to her in a while, but we're not on bad terms or anything.
Oh.
But she was saying stuff like, well, us regular folks, I mean, you're used to having people in the industry pay you this much, but she was basically saying, give us regular folks like a discount.
Yes, exactly what she was saying.
And I'm like, okay.
Hey, regular folks need to watch some YouTube, learn how to do what they sell.
Yeah, and that's another thing. People think that this, it's really like from project to project, and sometimes people will go like 2 months without work. And that's why that's why I'm studying for real estate appraisal, just because I need something that will fill in the meantime outside. I need a side hustle.
You scared you're going to fall in that gap? What happens if you start this real estate appraisal and it's getting hot? You like it, you going to give up the camera?
Hell no.
Oh, you sure?
I am positive.
Oh, okay.
Because I mean,
all right.
Yeah, I love this business. It's it's difficult. Now I know back to the payment issue. It's I've definitely learned some lessons on how to like deal with speak with clients and how to like really negotiate with them and negotiate contracts. So it's definitely a learning experience. It took me a while. It took me a while to like figure it out, because and I think the reason why I didn't have an issue before is because I wasn't charging people enough. But that's because I was getting better. I started off as I would say intermediate. I've been doing this professionally for a few years. But as I got better, I thought, wait a minute, I should be charging people more. And then that's when I started to see the pattern. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, because unfortunately, this is a lot more common than people really think.
Yes, it is.
Because people like to cut corners in industries. Like when I was a PA for a couple of companies. I think I don't know if they shut down or not. I don't know, but basically, they had me and the other PA shuttling. You're supposed to actually hire Teamsters and to drive passenger vans. I only put it on my resume just so I could stand out, because I actually have a lot of experience driving 12 passenger vans, and they're actually a lot easier to drive than I thought.
Oh, than you thought. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're a lot easier to drive than I thought, actually.
Yeah, not too complicated.
But it's very light and stuff. But but you see, I was shuttling people. People have been slamming my doors. But in some production companies, they don't really pay mileage. Which I kind of need that. That actually goes to my taxes. But they say, oh, we'll just give you some gas money. And I'm like, yeah, but this is adding some wear and tear on my car.
Heck yeah.
And like, I had to do that. There was literally some days where I literally just shuttled people with my own car back and forth for like 5 hours.
Hell no.
And so at the first, I'm like, obviously I'm getting paid, so I can't just say no. But it was a couple years ago.
Okay.
But, yeah, I just think my advice would be to people who are who are freelancing and like who are not getting paid on time, definitely make them sign a contract first. If they don't if they do not sign a contract, that means that they're not serious about paying them, and just move on to someone else. And you always got to keep on networking, because there's plenty of clients out there. You just got to find the right one and find like the quality of the client. Because I usually went for quantity over quality, because I was thinking of consistent work. But now
it's a rookie mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. But now it's more so the quality of the client over quantity. Yeah.
Yes. No, I totally, man. Yep. How do you feel about gear, man? Like, do you ever feel inadequate, like seeing, I don't know, just seeing other videographers and cinematographers with bigger equipment, more cameras and lights and things than you? Does it make you feel not enough?
I will admit sometimes it could come off as intimidating, but in a way it is motivating because, because obviously I don't know all these people. Right, like I don't know like what their financial situation is in, or what's motivating them to really invest in all these equipment, So if anything, it just motivates me just to work harder because it just tells me that I just need to step up,
I feel that's the right attitude to have, yeah.
And so at first it was intimidating because it made me feel like, dang, am I not like, I don't want to say I felt, sometimes I would feel inadequate, but sometimes I feel like, it's like I said, we go back to complacency.
Right. Yeah.
But it's also about, like that I need to do a lot more. I do make this mistake sometimes. Like sometimes I may end up comparing myself to other videographers.
Right. That's the biggest mistake you can make.
And also that's why I had to get off social media for a while.
Yes,
we can talk about that later.
Yeah, I hear you.
But so it's really, it may come off as intimidating when I see people with more and more equipment. But but people my clients who really they love my work, they say, look, you're doing great, I'm happy with this product, and and they haven't really complained. So sometimes you just got to work with what you have.
You do. I think more people should do that. I see a lot of people just buying gear, just buying stuff, and I'm like, you don't even have a client that needs that. You just buying stuff. Like, stop. You just buy it for no reason.
But that's why they have rental companies like,
exactly. Once you get the job first, then buy stuff.
That's what Aperture Rent is for as well in Sandy Springs. Aperture Rent is great. Go get them.
They are great.
Yeah. And so
yeah,
and that's like, because not everyone. I would be amazed if say every videographer just had a house just full of can you imagine every videographer just having every single all kind of hardware, all the equipment in the bag? They'd be like, wait, so you got everything? Yeah, I literally have everything.
I've met a couple that got everything.
Really?
Yeah, I really have. It was kind of I know what you mean. Yeah, I know how you what you're talking about. What do you think about working for free, man? Working for experience, working for exposure. How do you feel about that?
I think I've grown past excuse me. I think I've grown past that stage. Now, there may be some, exceptions of people who I built relationships with, and if it's something like maybe small, like independent stuff, then yes, I could, yes, I would definitely be open to that. If I believe in the project and I'm cool with, if I have a great relationship with them, then awesome. But at the end of the day, I have to make a living.
Of course you do. Yeah, man. Of course you do.
That's why I'm so big. Like, I'm very hesitant. Like, I'm not gonna be mad at someone who who works for free per se, because some people do need to learn.
Of course. Yeah.
Because for me, I actually prefer to really pay cast and crew and stuff.
Right.
Now, if I will let them know, listen, I can't really do that. I can't really pay right now, but I will do anything else that you want. You want like a reel, you want some free audition tapes, I'll be happy to give that to you. Just anything, like whether it's
of course.
Yeah, I'm always, transparency is a big thing for me, especially in this industry, because there's a lot of people in this business that really don't care. They're like, I'm just trying to get the bag. I don't really care who I screw over or whatever. But I would say I don't have a problem with maybe like interns or people who are like in college trying to just learn. If they just want to learn, cool. I would prefer that to pay them, but if I can't, I would just let them know up front.
Right.
I had to do that for the last music video that I was on, where I was a casting director, and I told the artist, who's a good friend of mine, I said, look, when we put this casting call up for these extras, we gotta let them know whether or not they're getting paid or not paid, because I don't want them feeling blindsided, and then they say, hey, I haven't gotten paid.
You start a fight that way, yeah.
And that's huge for me, and it's not a big deal if someone tells me no, I can't do it for free, then I'm like, I understand, but it really just depends. Like, If it's like a small independent production, then I would make an exception for it. It just really depends, and also my financial stuff. Look, I gotta.
Hey man, I feel
that it varies. It varies like from project to project. Like I said, every set is different, and everyone, so And also,
I personally, man, I feel like I'm always open to working for experience for free or whatever. Like, hey, if it's worth it, I'll do it. The problem is just that not a lot of jobs are worth it, to be honest with you. I mean, if Jay-Z called up or something and he needed hey, I'm there. I'll pay for the plane to get there and everything. I'll bring my equipment. Like, yeah, man, let's do it. I know that working for him or someone in his circle could change some things for me. But most people, hey, man, where my money at? Like, So I'm always open. I think, especially in this industry, because you never know where an opportunity could come from. I think people block their own. They block your own blessings by not taking opportunities. Like, you're not too good to get out there and do some work. This is the wrong industry. If you think this industry is built on favors, and helping.
It is.
So I don't think everybody's different though. But just me personally, I think that's always should be an option, especially if the alternative is to leave your camera sitting on the shelf collecting dust. Like, do something with it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I'm also very open to like collaborate. I'm also to collaborate as well because, if you were to like, if you were to ask me to like, shoot something, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. It's just a matter of like, what my circumstances are. But I try not to let that really define like how I go about things. But I don't think there's anything wrong with this industry of like necessarily working for free, but I just think it's to a certain extent sometimes. Oh, most
definitely. And we use the word free because we're talking about monetary exchange. Yeah. But there's like we talked about, there's so many other
knowledge
forms, now forms of payment. Like knowledge, other opportunities down. You remember me later for for whatever you may have coming up. Something, you know what I mean? Like that's like it's just so many other things besides money that a person can offer you.
Right.
Like one time I was shooting some small videos for a guy that did taxes. He would do my taxes. I shot a video for him. And we had a great look. Like situations like that. You barter with people. It's such that's what's so great about having a skill. You can barter with people. You got bargaining chips. And it ain't always got to be your hard-earned money. That's the beauty of our industry.
Right.
Having a skill.
And it's also you also have to know your worth. Excuse me.
Get it out.
Yeah. Also got to know your worth. Mm-hmm. You also, and also you also need to learn know your limits as well, because sometimes people will feel like, oh, I'm big and bad. I'm better than everyone at doing this and being a cinematographer. I'm like, yeah, but so you want me to pay you for something that you've never done before? Right. That's one thing. But if you know that you're like really, really good at it, at some point, someone is gonna have to, do something. But once again, if I take, if you can at least point me in the right direction and meet like quality, people who can really help me, elevate to the level that I want to be, then that's actually a great asset to have, because I'm all about building relationships and just really being with people who can help me get to the next level, and I can help them in return.
Right, exactly. Those will make the most beautiful relationships.
Yep,
and they don't always require money for it to work out.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on taking jobs? Let me re-ask this. Do you ever feel like you're just taking jobs or have you ever taken a job to just make the money? Like jobs that you don't even like, but you just gotta make the money. Like, you ever had to argue or like go back and forth with yourself internally? Like, am I doing the right thing here? Because that happens a lot in this industry.
Yeah.
I think I'm personally I'm past that point.
Okay.
Because I'm quick now to tell people no. I just don't have it in me. I don't have the energy. I don't even have it in me to fake smile with you and pretend like I care. I've been burned so many times with people trying to help them out, being nice, and it ends up hurting you because you were trying to be nice for them, and charge them a very small amount. And then they, people don't they forget very fast that you were trying to help them. So I think personally I'm past that point of taking jobs where I it's just for the money. Generally, I want to care. Or it has to make sense for me at this point. Because I also work a 9 to 5, so I'm working 40 hours. I don't have time for it to not benefit me in multiple ways. But have you ever found yourself in that position to where you just taking jobs for the money and not caring so much about it?
Yeah, several times. Although I will say within the last year, I would say definitely in the last year, I've been very selective with who I choose as my clients.
Yeah.
Like, one of my clients runs a chicken sausage company, Lawton's Chicken Sausage. Shout out to you, Andy. You're going to hear a lot of shout outs from me.
I see. That's okay. That means you know people.
Yeah, so, I mean, because he actually has a chicken sausage. His chicken sausage, his food basically doesn't have any preservatives. They don't have any, like, any of the pork or cancer-causing agents. I'm like, okay, this is cool. And his food is actually really good. So, obviously, I wanted to help him. I think he's, like, I think he said this for the fall. He's going to have, like, more chili and more, like, hot dogs and stuff coming. So, definitely want to follow up with him and see what he does. And he's always supporting me, and I support him. So, it's really about, but I do agree with you that it's really, I have to, like, really, really care for the product, but yes, I do feel like sometimes, you just don't, and everyone's journey is different, but sometimes you just don't really, sometimes you don't really have much of a choice if you actually need it.
Of course. I know. Yeah. Of course.
But yeah, I don't want to be in that mode.
I know no one does.
Where I just take anything randomly, like, because I guess for me at this stage in my career, it's more so of really just being versatile and really showing all the different things that I can do. I mean, I could do more than just shoot a wedding and shoot some trailers and all kinds of stuff. So it's really more about just showing everyone all the different things I can do. And I actually learned this from from the marketing director of the Commerce Club. He's studied marketing, and he was showing me all the different ways like to market myself. I ended up creating multiple Instagram pages for different things. And he was explaining to me how I'm how to like really like target my clients in terms of like how to like really sell them. And he only wanted to see a couple of things. And I showed him like the wedding video and a recap red carpet premiere video, and so he said that, all right, I want to make sure these are the only products I want to see. And it's funny because the movie that from SVS Stripper Party 2, he saw
did he?
He saw the story on he saw the promotion on my Instagram story around the time. It was right before the premiere. And he's like, yeah, Robbie, so I really love your work, but I mean, if you're trying to sell like and meet certain clients, because there's specific clients that you got to sell them to, because every client is different. When he saw the Stripper Party 2 poster, he was like, yeah, this is probably better off on like an adult like entertainment
yes
page. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. So shout out to him. He actually really did help me like really separate my the clientele that I want to target. So but yeah, so it's really just more about like what really matters to me the most. Like I did a nonprofit organization for I filmed a recap video of the Crimson Community Foundation. So they're a nonprofit that focuses. It's run by a black fraternity, Alpha Kappa, I believe. And so basically their event was about these young black men, like 17, 18-year-old black men, really attending this panel of like 10 black doctors, like all who share their experience and their education within the medical field. Pediatricians, plastic surgeons. I don't think they had a dentist there, but they had a variety of different things. And it was inspiring to me because I love seeing young black men get I love seeing them have like stronger role models. I mean, everybody likes to be like this on social media. Everyone likes to it seems like they're looking at all these artists, hip hop artists. Nothing wrong with that, seeing them as role models, but I just like to see people with regular black successful like young successful like black black people like really like regular jobs like firemen or whatever. I like seeing. I want to see people. I want to see young black kids look at them as role models as well. You know, so it was inspiring to me. I'm like, yes, I definitely want to do this. You know, so it has to like really mean a lot to me. So I'm definitely something I'm learning. If it's like, if you feel like, my advice to that would be if you feel like that you don't feel like you're getting, you know, paid what you're worth. And if you feel like that it's not that you're not really passionate about it, and I'm definitely learning that too with a few videos I've been doing this year, you know, I'm like, I don't really care about this anymore. I'm kind of bored doing this, you know, and so after a while, you just get tired of it and you want to move on to the next thing. And I got ADD, so I'd be getting distracted easily. Hey.
Hey man, you called it. Hey man. So what about burnout, man? How you feel about have you felt burnout? Because I know I have. Like life just gets in the way sometimes. You know?
Oh yeah. Sometimes you just gotta, you know, get away. You know, I took a social media hiatus. I took one back in April for like 4 weeks. I want to say.
Oh really?
Even though I've been getting people's social media accounts. I'm like, look, just here's my number. You could just text me your social media and I'll just follow you back later. But I just think a social media detox is definitely healthy. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
The question was burnout. How do you feel like
burnout?
How do you deal with burnout, man?
Okay.
Have you felt it?
Oh, absolutely. Now, you know, because sometimes I always try to keep up with the next trend, and I try to and sometimes like when you're really trying hard to like really make it and really make a good product, especially for editing is already a grueling and mentally draining process.
Yes it is.
You know, and sometimes, you know, there were some times like in the last 2 years where I almost quit the industry.
Oh really?
Yeah, just because.
Why?
Well, it was draining, you know. Like I said, we went back to people not paying me on time, and it was just like it was like really draining, and it was one of those things where I just felt like, dang, am I inadequate, or is it just the industry in general? And it was just, sometimes you just need a break, you know. I had to get away. Like I said, that's why I brought the social media thing. Sometimes you just got to get away from social media. I delete the apps off my phone.
I know.
Every few, and I think I'm gonna stay off for probably like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Maybe longer. We'll see. And sometimes I just try to, you know, I just take walks. I take nature walks, like to Stone Mountain and stuff, just to like really clear my head. Yeah, and I just like just you know, just being, you know, just standing still and just kind of just reflecting. And sometimes that actually helps me with burnout. You know, that's why, you know, a lot of filmmakers. I was watching this panel. He was a guest speaker. I forgot his name, but he was a cinematographer for the Constantine TV show.
Oh.
And I was watching one of his a video of him as a guest speaker for the Georgia Film Academy, because it was one of our assignments. And so he talked about how he actually was working on a TV show for 5 months. But he actually took 2 months off of work because he spent 5 months away from his family, from his wife and his kids.
Yeah, exactly, right.
You know, and he was just like, look, I need a break. I'm not taking anything, you know, and everything. I'm like, wow, he must have been paid a lot to stay off of work for 2 months, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, everyone experiences burnout. I mean, I like, you can tell. I've been on sets where people look like they just hate their lives so much. And I'm like, and I can already tell that it really takes a toll. Like,
it does.
Like this business takes a toll on you. You know, people look at on the outside who are not familiar with the industry. They look at it like, oh yeah, you're making money. I mean, you got the bank and all this stuff. But you don't know how physically and mentally draining and demanding it really takes.
Yeah.
It really is to like really, you know, execute, to really put everything together. So
yeah, it's pretty tough, man. That's one of the tough things about me and my relationship with my wife. It's like, it's hard to plan things for the future sometimes, or not so much lately. Like I said, I had the 9 to 5, but when I was full-time freelancing, it's just tough to plan for the future. Like, it'd be January and she want to go on a trip in the fall, you know, especially if it's like a week long or something. It's like, you know, like, we can plan it, but you know, I don't know what's going to be going on. You know, I don't know what I'll be doing at that time. I don't know if I can just walk away for a week, you know, especially when you're grinding, because if you don't, if you don't pick up the phone and take the job, they'll find somebody else, and then you'll never. You basically have lost the client, because they may not call you back. This new person's their go-to person now. So it's tough to say no sometimes. Like, to be able to that cinematographer you're talking about, to be able to take that time off is a testament to how grounded he is in the industry, because a lot of people can't do that, because if you leave for that long, you will be replaced. So that's the harsh. That's another harsh reality of this industry. Like the fact that you can't take off, the fact that you really can't say no sometimes.
People, and it's all about being strategic with your timing as well, because some people, I'm not married or anything, but sometimes I can only imagine, it's the reason why a lot of celebrities, like a lot of these celebrities that you see break up, it's because of how busy they really are.
Right. Exactly.
Like Christian Bale worked on, I think he's still married, I don't know, but Christian Bale worked on the last Batman movie for like 6 to 8 months. Like Daniel Craig, the movie Spectre, he was on that film for 8 months, and he was joking around. He was saying he'd rather slash his wrist to play Bond again. He was joking, but he explained. But he explained, he's like, look, I stayed away from my family for a very long time, and that's why it took him so long. It took him like I think 3 or 4 years before he did his last Bond movie. He's like, look, I needed a break, So that's why hey, you gonna play Bond again? And he responded like, no, just give me a minute. I just finished this one.
Yeah,
But yeah, it does get really tough. I just think as long as if you have like friends and family who are understanding, you can always strategically plan some things, because it's gonna be there. It's just a matter of like, look, I can only do like this amount of days. I think that's when the negotiation parts comes in. That's why it's always important to like really like establish your own mental space before like really allowing others to like really enter. And I've definitely gotten better at that over the past like 6 months. So it's it's just a matter of really really how you go about it. So
what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions of working in this industry?
Biggest misconceptions?
Yeah, like people obviously, like you say, they see it from the outside in. It's a great industry, because a lot of people, especially on a larger scale, they only work a few months out of the year. Like I've met some guys that they work like 1 or 2 jobs the year. They take the rest of the year out. They're big jobs though, you know what I mean? But
thousands and millions.
Huge jobs. They just work 1 or 2 and they're done for the rest of the year. But that's a misconception, because most people definitely are not doing that. That's an oddball. That's not every day.
Right. You'd have to get to a certain level in order to be
exactly right. So what misconceptions do you think people have seen in this industry? I mean, because obviously I think that's probably one, that we just get paid so much money, because this stuff can be expensive. But what other misconceptions have you noticed or that you've seen?
I would say, on the surface, we did talk about this earlier. On the surface, people just look at, all the, people like partying on yachts and stuff and traveling the world, getting out of the country, But but some people don't understand, why they're in that position in the first place.
Right.
Like because some people, the reason why they're on vacation doing stuff is probably because they worked on maybe like a 6-month project, and they're like, look, I need a vacation, So, and then also some people, it's not really that simple. It's hard to go into this industry. I started off as a production assistant, which is like the bottom of the totem pole, and for the most part, like, I do think that PAs have a union now, if I'm not mistaken. So they're starting to get paid a lot more.
Oh, are they? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
Look, don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe they do now.
I don't know.
But
they need one.
Yeah, and so I think the average PA gets paid like $150 to $250 a day.
Right.
Some of them are $300 a day, like depending on like mainly for commercials and reality shows. But but it's not that sustainable. because they always say that you need at least like 160, 180 days production days before you're eligible to join the union and be an AD. That's one of the only reasons why I was a PA for so long. But when I stopped getting work, it was just like, wow, well, I prefer to be in the camera department. So
yeah,
so that's why I had to stop doing PA work, and I may take some stuff for passive income, and it's extra days, and it'll help me work my way to like getting in the union.
Yeah.
But people don't understand like the sacrifice that people have to make in order to get to where they need to be, because people just look at, yeah, you're making money, you're living in a big house and driving a fancy car, but underneath that, and an old friend of mine, first AD, he posted this recently on IG. He posted like a diagram of like, all the grind, all the preparation that they have to do for each, for all these projects. Like, it's incredibly grueling. And as we talked about, these set days, they run for like almost like 14 to 16 hours.
Yes, they do.
And by the end of the night, everyone's going to be maybe not everyone, but a lot of people are going to be irritated. And yes. They don't want to talk to nobody.
Yep. No, I know.
And also another thing, like another thing, apparently most people from set, they usually pass away through the car accidents because they're so tired.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I done came close a few times myself.
Yeah, but luckily I never got that close. What I do is I always drink coffee. I always drink like 3 cups of coffee before I leave set.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have to because I got to stay awake.
I feel you. All right. Okay.
I'm like, look, I'm not taking any chances.
Then you get home, can't go to sleep. That's crazy. 3 cups.
Yeah, the worst part is actually some people like to spend the night in like at the set location.
Some people do. Yeah.
I had to go to Woodstock, which is really far, like an hour and 10 minutes north of Atlanta. I had to go to Woodstock for film, and one of the PAs like, I'm gonna spend the night here. Rob, you gonna stay? I'm like, no, I'm going home. I don't want to be in this house.
Okay.
So sometimes, because sometimes you just gotta be away. You gotta be away from set. It's but anyway, it's beside the point. But
okay.
But yeah.
What advice would you give someone that's interested in getting started as a camera operator?
Well,
or videographer?
Well, definitely do some studying. You definitely need to learn about the mechanics of a camera. There's sometimes I'd be forgetting because it's just a little intimidating, a little complicated to learn. Where the buttons or the menu and the buttons are and stuff. That's why I wanted to play with the FX30 a little bit, because I wanted to get familiar with it. And luckily it's the Sony, so I'm more familiar with Sony and how to use it.
Yeah.
But you got to learn, definitely learn lighting. Lighting is definitely key, especially which lights to specifically use. I would say that's the most, I don't want to say difficult, but I would say that's the most crucial part.
It is. It's also the most slept on part.
Yeah, because like because I have soft boxes. I don't have a whole lot of lights or anything like that. But there's like, we got aperture lights. You got sky panels. For all these like big, huge like budget productions. They require bigger lights.
They do.
So, and obviously not everyone is gonna have that. So my advice would be just to learn, the basics. Take a photography class. I wish I would have taken a photography class. I just kind of learned on my own, because I think photography will help you with, will actually help you with lighting, how to position, the subject, and learning about, ISO and aperture and, shutter speed and, the f-stop and focus.
Right.
But Georgia Film Academy is also a great one. That's definitely
the Georgia Film Academy.
Yeah, the Georgia Film Academy is great. I recommend anyone who wants to get started in the industry. They'll show that you have to take the PA prerequisite course. It's basically just like any other like school course. It's only, I think the tuition went up, but when I went, it was like $800 per semester. But the classes are like 2 to 3 hours long. They show you how to. They actually give you a breakdown of all the different departments. What's a greensman? What's the difference between a production designer and an art director? What are teamsters? Who was the is it busboy or best boy? I can't remember, one of the two. He's under the gaffer.
Yeah. Best.
Yeah. So but in camera specifically, I was to start as a PA first, You don't have to be there like for 5 years or anything like that.
Right.
But you definitely want to learn the different departments and hang around. You know, the loader, the utility, those are actually the bottom of the camera department. Really, is the utility helps with just really just supplying gear. Pretty much, that's really all it is. But, yeah, a loader is more so is the one who actually takes the SD cards from the camera and like really loads them up in the computer and on the hard drive, so that way when it runs out of space, then you'll be prepared to give it to the second AC, then the first AC, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So definitely utility and a loader job would be good. Start with a PA first, so you can at least learn all the departments. You don't have to be there like the whole time, unless you want to. Like some PAs get paid pretty well. Some do actually get paid pretty well.
They can find consistent good job, good sets. Yeah,
especially for people that you're really cool with. So
right.
But that would be my advice, just to start as a PA, and then if you see anything specific about the camera department that you want to know, you just ask questions, but be strategic about asking questions, because everyone has to work. We have time constraints on these sets. So so if they act stern, or if they act if they come off as aloof, they have the second most important. Well, I'd say the second most important job behind like sound, But if they act stern or anything, don't take it personally, because they're just trying to focus. And the best thing to do is, as a PA, you want to talk to the utility, loader, and the second AC. That's who you want to speak to first. Like, so the DP, let him do his thing. But some of them are very friendly. I've spoken to some on set and they were cool with me, but but just just start there. Start off small.
Rob, let me ask you something, brother.
What's up?
What do you think of yourself? What do
I think of myself?
Yep.
I was not expecting this question. Well, I think of someone who's incredibly ambitious, and sometimes maybe I look at the industry and I look at life from a certain lens, no pun intended. It's definitely, I've definitely gone through a lot of trials and tribulations. And sometimes I know that I'm nobody's perfect. I understand that I haven't I'm not where I want to be, in this industry. And
where do you want to be?
Well, I want to make an impact. I want my legacy to be that, Robbie did. Obviously you got to be stern and like tough in film, but I want to show people, a different way that for filming it's supposed to be fun, If you're like really passionate about it, you want, everyone to have a good time, and I just want to I just kind of want to be, the catalyst for that.
You sure? You think filmmaking is supposed to be fun?
Well,
I'm asking. There's no right or wrong. I'm just asking.
Well, it's interesting how you asked it.
It is, yes.
Yeah, but
because I do have a stance, but
maybe the like process of like the filmmaking may not be as fun, but I just love to tell stories. It's still a job at the end of the day, but I feel like I just don't really see myself choosing another career path. I feel like I was born for this. My dad works in the music industry.
Oh, okay.
He's a manager and music producer. He does he's trying to do something different by mixing Chicago soul with bossa nova and samba. His company is Bossa Nova Noites. He speaks a lot of Portuguese.
Oh.
But I just feel like, as long as as I move forward and I keep going, then I don't feel like anyone could really stop me from achieving my dreams. So,
do you believe that?
Do I believe
that no one can stop you?
No. Excuse me. No, I do believe that.
You do believe it? Okay.
Yeah, because I would say that I am my worst enemy. I definitely am my biggest critic, and it sometimes feels like that others like criticize me a lot more, but honestly, it's really more so like how I handle myself. So because I would definitely say that I am my worst enemy. I feel like that only I can really hold myself back. You know, and we talked about like, you know, how
we all are.
a lot of less, you know, it's a lot of lessons to learn. I learned a lot this year, and I definitely need to move differently. But, you know, I am proud that I actually accomplished some things. You know, I graduated high school, I graduated college. You know, I got my camera, my Sony A7 III. From during the pandemic.
Okay.
I used my stimulus check to buy that camera while everybody was spending $1,000s on rims and stuff like that and gold chains and whatever. I'm like, I needed something practical that can actually help me in the long run.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes it's all about, you know, just loving yourself, prioritizing yourself before you could really help others. So I'm just, you know, I'm grateful just to be alive today. And I almost skipped my birthday this year, and I'm glad that my friends and everybody really encouraged me to really celebrate. You know, and you know, only because I didn't feel like I accomplished as much as I would like to this year.
Oh,
you know,
what else you trying to do?
Well, I mean, in terms of my my career, I didn't really, and maybe it's self-inflicted. I may you know, obviously I could always do more.
Of course, as always.
You know, but
why are you so hard on yourself?
I guess because, you know, growing up, I feel like maybe my family holds me to such a high standard. And I get, because I am the oldest grandson on both my parents' sides, and you know, I just wish that I probably could have done a little bit more for my family over the years. What? You know, I don't want to get into like all the specifics and the personal stuff.
Okay. You know? The juicy stuff. Okay.
It's just like some personal stuff with my family and stuff, and I don't want to get into that.
Hey, brother, I understand.
Yeah, but I just my family has gone through some things over the past few years. And I just feel like that I wish I would have been in a better position to, like, you know, really help and do, you know, really help and just like really help and like, you know, help them out and just do, excuse me. You know, I just really want to make my family proud and just make their lives better.
Are they proud of you now?
They are. You know, sometimes, like,
are they?
They are.
Okay.
It's just that, you know, they're a little harder on them about how I feel than I am myself, which I think is kind of weird, honestly. Because only I can control what I can control, you know.
Right.
So, but you know, I just got to do the best I got to do the best I can, and maybe it didn't turn out the way that I've wanted, but you know, I just got, the only thing I can do is I could just take what I learned this year and just bring it into the next year. Well, or not just this year, but just like even like for the past like 6 hours, you know. You know, I'm just saying, like, what I need to do is, all I need to do is I just got to make sure that tomorrow I'm a better man than I was yesterday. You know.
Can't nobody argue with that, brother.
You know. So it's you know, it is what it is. I mean, like I said, I'm not satisfied, which I think is a good mindset to have personally, because I need to I want to make sure that, you know, that I definitely made a big enough impact on myself, so that way, I don't know, how do I say this? I want to make sure that dang, I was on a roll. I can't. You were. You know, I just, you know, I always do the best. I do the best I can, the best version of myself as I possibly can. You know, I recently got a bracelet that said, you know, be you, everybody else is taken. So,
interesting.
You know, so it's yes, I may have constantly, like, I used to compare myself to people, but
you used to, or you still do?
Well, maybe I do every now and then, but personally, it's more so, I can't worry about, you know, I can't really worry too much about like what other people have going through. I gotta be the best Robbie Abear that I can be. Because there's only one of me.
Everybody else taken.
Yeah. So.
Huh. Okay. You think your camera is going to be the catapult for you to help change your family? Or the camera is a representation, a metaphor for the skills and things that come along with it. I mean, maybe your producing skills or editing, whatever the case. This industry is going to be the catapult for you to take you and your family to the next level. That's what you believe.
That's the goal, And look,
is that what you believe? We all got goals, but is that what you think will happen? You believe that?
That's a really tough question.
That's not that. Is it that? Is it? Just a question. Yeah. You sure? That took a minute.
No, because I had to No, I know it took a minute, but it was because it was more so. I'm just very confident that I can do it.
I feel nothing wrong with that. I was just asking. Okay.
No, I'm not tippy about it or anything. It's like I said, I'm not where I'm at. I'm not where I want to be now, but I believe I will be.
Okay.
I'm confident that I will.
Okay, cool. I'm glad I hope you do, man. I hope you do. You got a good heart. Got any regrets?
Any regrets?
Would you do this again? Like if you could go back, let's not get into numbers and how old we are, but if you could go back to college and pick your majors and do all that stuff again, would you still pick whatever this is, video production, media stuff? Would you do this still?
That is a great question because aside from film, one of my favorite interests, I do love my hobbies. I do love to read comic books. It's been a while though. I still have 2 comic books I bought. I still haven't read them.
Oh dang. This year. I get it. I bought some too. I haven't read.
And also I love sports, so I thought maybe I could have been like a sports agent or sports management. But I gotta say, really now that you have me thinking about it, I'm gonna say no because I can't really see myself. Really, I just aside from maybe doing something in sports management or something, I can't really see myself doing anything else. I've been loving movies since I was like 5 or 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My very first movie I watched was The Wizard of Oz, and my first R-rated movie was The Matrix, and my dad and I would watch movies together. We still, ever since I was like maybe like 11, I'm gonna say 11 or 12, we would always see a movie every weekend.
Oh really?
Yeah,
that's a good memory.
Yeah, my dad is my hero. So.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, so
Hey man, you crying?
Stop.
Hey man, what you doing? Oh goodness, man.
Stop.
I'm not. I know, of course not. Hey man, all jokes aside, that's great. That's a blessing.
Yeah. So, yeah, he definitely helped me get it. He definitely inspired me to get into the entertainment industry.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So
you're here then.
Yeah.
You here. This is what you're supposed to. You're here.
Yeah.
You're on the right path, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we believe it. Okay. I was questioning it earlier. I'm wondering, but now we feel it. We believe it. Okay.
And that's another thing I need to work on.
What?
No, nothing. You can cut this out.
Holding emotions and things?
A little bit.
No, please. You're human. Don't hold that stuff in, man. Let that shit out. Let it out. Because if you talked about something sensitive to me, hey, man, I'm going to be crying right here. Buku tears. Fill these water bottles back up. But no, man. I mean,
water bottles back up.
I would, man, with tears. Man, you human, man.
Don't tell anyone.
Right. You're right, actually. Because, yes, all these daggone demons, they see you be human. They want to take advantage of you. It's like, just... Can I have a moment of being a human, But I understand, man, and that's actually great.
Yeah.
That's great. Because most people have the wrong people as their heroes. The wrong people.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
Well, maybe the next time.
That's a great thing, man. And to be honest with you, I'm sure I'm not the only one when I say this, but I don't want to say. I was gonna say jealous. That's not the word. Not jealous. Not envious. But I'm happy for you. You know, I'm genuinely happy for you because, like I said, most people have the wrong people as their heroes. Most people live their entire lives and never get the opportunity to even know their fathers, let alone like him enough for him to be their hero. So
especially in our,
yes, of course.
And it just makes me sad because my I never met my grandfather on my dad's side.
Oh, okay.
Like literally the only time I saw him was when he was like in an urn.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Robbie, where can people find you? Where can people find you? Because I'm sure they want to.
All right, so you can find me on Instagram at Bobby the Ambitious _ between I'm on each side of the THE.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can find me on YouTube at The Ambitious Films.
Who's Bobby? Who is Bobby?
My nickname.
Okay.
I mean,
all right.
Bobby Brown's real name is Robert Brown.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Okay. You just.
But here's the thing. It's just easier to. It's just roll. Bobby just rolls off the tongue better on social media. But I'd always go by Robbie. So, yeah.
Hey man, stranger things have been said at this table today. Okay, don't worry. Good stuff. Good stuff. Robbie, thank you for joining me today, brother. Thank you so much. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.